Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we'll be reviewing a TV series that just came out last year, which is called The Midwich Cockoos. And it's a retelling of remake of The Village of the Damned.
Well,
or sort of.
Not necessarily. Actually, look, I'll introduce this bit of it. Okay.
Go for it.
The original book it was based on is actually called The Midwich Cockoos. Okay. A book by John Wyndham was written in 1957. Now, sometime after 1957, they made a couple of movies. The Village of the Damned was done in 1960, and it starred George Sanders. Mm-hmm. They did a remake of it in 1995, and Christopher Reeve was the main lead. So, but the movies are called The Village of the Damned, whereas the book and this TV series are called The Midwich Cockoos. There you go. That's Midwich. Yeah, there you go. Now, I'm sitting right next to one of them right now. No. No, I'm not.
Well, there's probably a reason why it was called this. I mean, I think you have to read the book, obviously, so you have to understand that.
Somewhat.
Anyway, the story is pretty much the same as The Village of the Damned and the other two remake movies and this book about some unexplainable births that take place at the exact same time and during a blackout, and therefore our heroes have to try to work out how these kids come to manifest, even though we still don't know all the answers in this after we watch this TV series. Although there is a lot of good things they put in this one, there is a bit of different things they added to the story in this series. So. And of course, as always, when you're dealing with any series these days, they would often try to add a bit of padding in, as always, mostly. So it's pretty much what we've expected from this series. Isn't that right, Mike?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
A series is a series is a series, depending on how they do it. How's that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're gonna.
As far as I'm concerned, but
exactly so.
Now, having said all that, I'll go to my usual crap. Now,
Great.
Produced by Pat Karam, Karam, directed by Neil Blair, created by David Farr. Yeah, like I said before, it's based on a novel of the same name, written by John Wyndham back in 1957.
Right.
I won't go through all the actors. There are lots of kids and crap and everything running around and stuff. And
yeah.
Now, the main two, I think. Yeah. Okay. A lady, by the name of Keely Hawes plays Dr. Susanna Celebi, and a man, Max Beasley, plays Detective Chief Inspector Paul Haynes. I'll leave the rest of them out because there's quite a few people listed here, and I'm not going to go through them because some are just bit roles as well. But they're the main two people. Yeah,
the main people we often focus on those set people in this little town.
Yeah,
and it's called Midwich, so.
What a nice name for a town.
Yeah, and it's a small town, and when the incident takes place, the women of either pregnant years
why don't you
got
tell
pregnant.
The story?
Yeah, sure.
That'd be really good, like you normally do.
Sure. Too bad there's no box office, obviously.
No, being a TV series, streaming, and that sort of stuff, don't have production details such as that, which is a shame. And one makes sure it's making some money.
Yeah. So the story begins. There's two people arriving in Midwich, Zoe and her boyfriend Sam. They are new to the village, and I guess he's up for a new job in a school, I guess.
As a teacher
or something. And so him and his wifey. I mean, not wifey. I keep forgetting that they're not married in this episode in the series.
Let's say his partner. That's very nice.
They're just together anyway. So they hope to have a few kids, which is a bit weird, but that's nothing new under the sun. So they come to Midwich. They're hoping to raise a few kids and live their lives there in a nice, quiet little town. But it's less quiet, as it turns out.
quite-ish.
Yeah, that very day or later on, as they're getting cuddly, a blackout occurs. You see it throughout this production where you see lights, cameras, not cameras, TVs, computers, and anything that has electrical starts playing up. And then, like clockwork, these people in the town pass out in this area. And the only ones who are not affected are the DC officer, what's his name? Paul, who's out of range, and I guess let me see. There was also a mother who was out of town who was with her daughter, and her husband and his lover were having their own set of affairs. Whatever. Anyway, this thing lasts for 12 hours.
Or whatever,
12
overnight,
or 15 hours.
whatever.
It lasts overnight, and Susanna, she's a psychiatrist lady who's also out of town, and she left her daughter, Cassie, back at home, and she also passed out. And of course, Suzanne tries to get back to the town, but it's blocked by barricades and stuff like that.
Already there.
Police
they're very fast,
and
very efficient,
and scientists are trying to work out why the townspeople passed out. They're not telling anyone because they think it's something.
They thought it could be chemicals, tourism, something or other. Yeah,
they tried to fly a helicopter in to get a closer look at the situation, but that helicopter falls, crashes, and
the people flying
in it are sleeping. So who knows how high this weird thingy, this invisible barrier is? It could be going all the way to outer space.
It didn't go to outer space because they're coming down about 100 metres or 50 metres from the ground when they passed out.
True.
Will you actually pay attention? Will you sleep during this?
Shut up, Mike. Anyway, in other words, it's pretty much high up and it's covered in that small area. Of course, they plan on evacuating some of the residents who are surrounding this Midwich. But unfortunately, eventually people in the small town start to wake up and start calling in their loved ones that they're fine. Of course, at this time, they notice something peculiar about their bodies. And it's not only one woman, it's like a few of the women in the town. Even some teenager girls who probably have not been in a relationship yet, or some of them have.
Yeah, they got a bun in the oven.
Yeah. And even an old lady in her 40s who's never hasn't had sex with a man for a couple of years, is somehow pregnant too.
An old lady, you're about 40. You're not old lady.
I'm not 40. I'm 37.
You said you're almost 40. That's not old.
Well, technically, this woman is either 40 or 50. I'm not sure.
Well, let's say she's in her 40s. However, she hasn't had a man for quite so many years.
Yeah, and of course, when they have a meeting at a hospital. It becomes sort of an ongoing place where each time something happens within this series, they go to this hospital to do a meeting of sorts to work out the situation.
That's their ground zero. That's where everything happens from.
Yeah. Anyway, one of the parents says, maybe you just got drunk and fell and just got into a man's bed or something. But she says, no, I have not been with a man for some years. So I wasn't drunk. I wasn't high.
It wouldn't explain all the other females falling pregnant all at the same time.
I understand that the high school girls passing out and probably waking up and finding out they're pregnant.
That does happen in high school.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
Anyway, some of the ladies want to terminate the pregnancy, but some dark forces force them not to do it. Anyway, soon enough, all the women, I won't tell you how many, there's quite a few, considering this is a small town, small town, obviously.
Town?
And
was it the whole town or part of the town?
Part of the town, because the rest of the town has not been affected.
Yeah, it's only part
I
of the
think
town.
it was just either a small block of streets or small block of areas.
Well, I think the main epicenter was where the school wasn't it, where that thing came down?
Yeah, the school itself.
And the surrounding streets?
Yeah, the surrounding streets.
Yeah.
Not all of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, so... Oh, yeah, I should mention the DC officer... Paul, he lost his wife in this instant because she was making tea and then she passed out and the gas was on
And she got gassed.
Yeah,
Bugger.
both her and her unborn child both died. So we'll never know what would happen if she gave birth to that said child, whether it would be normal like all the others. Anyway, so we get to 5 months. The women are fully pregnant. You get the gist. They're full.
The babies are developing twice the normal rate.
They're developing twice the normal rate. Instead of 9 months, we get 5 months. So anyway, all the women in the town, their waters break, and then they get rushed to the hospital, and then they start giving birth to the babies at the same time.
Yep, all at the same time. How you could, you'd be really taxing the system, wouldn't you? All these babies being born all the same day.
Of course, they've been told about the incident that they should keep it quiet, including the births and all that stuff, and not talk to anyone outside their little community of sorts. Sort of like a prison situation, when you think about it.
Or whatever.
Anyway, so they can't contact their loved ones and tell them about the situation because who would believe them, and who would believe it? Anyway, some of them eventually accept the whole motherhood thingy wing, except for Zoe, who still feels like no doubt that this child is hers, but it's someone else's too. Meaning it's not not her boyfriend's, and she feels she doesn't attend the meetings Susanna organised with all the set mothers, including Cassie. She feels like they're all brainwashed by the fact that their children are not really theirs, and they think it's a miracle, it's an evolution, or a human quantum leap into gosh knows what. I don't know. It does not make sense.
It does.
According to them, it does. Anyway, so after the births of the babies, 3 years have passed, and the kids look like they're about 9 or 8 years of age, which they shouldn't be.
They're about 6, and then they had to do another jump.
Yeah, meaning they've gotten a little older. Quickly. Instead of the usual, they're about 5 years of age now. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So, at this point, they look like everyone else's kids. They dress like ordinary kids. Of course, there is something off about their personalities. You could tell by the fact that how they get quiet amongst themselves, their peers, and when they're around their parents, they try to interact like normal.
Yeah.
And you could tell right away they're not really interacting really. Of course, Paul bonds with Nathan, one of the kids, who's a friend of his. Is sort of friends with his dead wife's sister, I guess. She was in town when the blackout occurs, I guess visiting and all that stuff, and she gets false pregnant, obviously. And so, anyway, we have her son Nathan, and we have his, we have Zoe and Sam's daughter, her name's Hannah, and we have Cassie's daughter named Eve. And we have Sam and Zoe's next door neighbor's son, who's named Joe. Who's you could tell right away that he's practically the same age as his older brother when you say
in development.
In development stages, they both look 7 years of age or something like that. And when he's actually been born 3 years ago. Anyway. So the kids are placed into a special school. They got some, advanced technology, and they start learning from computer screens, like all their knowledge and stuff like that, really quickly. And they're also given a school uniform. You see it a lot in these series. I mean, we've seen in the originals that they wore a similar outfit throughout those movies that we've seen them, and in this, and just so you guys know, they don't look identical to one another like in the 90 version of
the earlier version.
early
The kids
version.
all look the same, all blonde hair.
In this
and
one,
yeah.
they look like resemble their mothers. You know, considering they don't have their father or father's DNA, they have their mother's looks and appearance, and possibly.
Yeah, all the DNA refers back to the mother.
Yeah.
And something
from
fertilized egg there.
Yes. So anyway, they took on their only mothers. Zoe is not bonding well with her daughter Hannah because Hannah is somehow sided with Sam a lot, and Sam is always the protective father, even though it's not his. It's been established that he's not. He's trying to be the protective father, and he even gets into a fight with another father after he hears from Hannah that he kind of was acting nasty to her. But we then learn later on that Sam is being manipulated by his own daughter, and the same could be said for a number of other parents who turn the other cheek whenever the kids do something wrong. I should mention as I said before, there was one woman who was having an affair with one of the husbands in one of the scenes earlier in the first episode, and she's living in London with her daughter, and her name is Sunny, yeah. And she is called back to Midwich, and eventually the mother doesn't want to stay there, but even though the government is offering her, say, a lot of money to stay there and raise her daughter there, of course she says no and makes plans to leave Midwich that very night. Of course, that very night something happens and her body disappears. She disappears.
Funny that, hey.
We later learned that she was stuffed inside
one of those refrigerator trucks.
veins.
Yeah. So they made her an ice block.
Yeah. And the people in charge of that van said it was broken, and they then discovered the doors knockers were jammed, and so they end up breaking it open and finding the dead remains of the lady who died of being frozen to death or something. Anyway, so the parents are getting a little more scared of their children, so Zoe even decides to up and leave Midwich for a bit, hang out with an old friend, and she then learns that the children or at least Hannah, made her leave, meaning they're still being controlled outside of Midwich. So she heads back. She finds out that Sam is in a bad state, and they both make love, and we learn later on that Zoe is pregnant with Sam's child. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they make plans on leaving, and she even writes a biography and submits the biography to the government official guys who are in charge of the project, and told them that she'll take her own other copy to the press if they do not let her and Sam leave. She says she'll she's offered to hand over her child to Hannah to them, so she can. Then promises that she won't publish the story.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, just ammunition to protect themselves.
Yes, exactly so. Anyway, on the day they were planning on running, the kids and the parents are going on a picnic of sorts. Of course, as they're about to run, the kids corner them and, using their powers, try to get Zoe to eat poisonous berries and get Sam to eat weed killer. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, weed killer, yeah.
Of course, Susanna tries to talk to Evie. She finds out that this is not the first time unexplainable births occurred in their world. As it turns out, there was another one that took place many years ago in Russia.
Yeah, same sort of problem.
Yeah, and the very kids were up and killed in a bombing, and
they locked them in a room somewhere and they bombed the building.
Yeah, and the kids think that they'll be put in danger by the parents again.
They didn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Not
Of
this
course,
time round.
Susan tries to explain to her that we'll try to love you and we'll try to get along with one another. If you could finally accept us, and we'll try to accept you and stuff like that. So eventually they accept the truce, if you call it. According to Susanna, it's not a truce, but more of a compromise, if you will.
Close enough.
And another 2 years pass. The kids have grown into a lot older teenagers, and they still resemble their younger 6-year-old self. You could see Evie still wearing the pigtails, if you will. I think it was.
Yeah, the style hasn't changed.
The
too
style
much.
hasn't changed, except for their hair's grown a little bit, and maybe a bit of their features have grown a bit more.
Because different kids.
Yeah, the guy in charge, he's the head guy in charge. He's quite pleased with their results and plans on taking them for further testing to an army base, a bit further away from Midwich. Of course, both the Paul and Susanna accompany Evie and Nathan. That's the 2 children I mentioned. They went to the army base, and they were told to stay near the car while they take the children to another part to the army base for testing.
Yeah.
Even though I do think I would have preferred it if both Paul and Susanna accompany them. It doesn't seem like they're being kept in the dark about this.
It does.
We then find out that at the same time, the kids back at the Midwich, they're doing something, and one of the kids from, I guess it's named David, that's Joe's brother. Just so you guys know, the David in this one is not really one of the kids who are the alien kids. It's just a coincidence that he's named David in this one. I don't know why. So anyway, David kind of his brother and him are separated because both mum and dad have separated. So he's living with his dad while Joe is living with his mum. So one day he was going down. He goes to the school where his brother was in, and he finds out that his brother is in the basement with the other kids, and we don't know what's happening. We see their glowing eyes, and they're in a circle, and we see the parents have passed out again, and the electricity is acting cuckoo again. Anyway, we then see the parents back at the military base. They also pass out, and we then find
But
out
the soldiers didn't pass out.
No, as it turns out, we hear a gunshot. We think, and
We threw a gunshot, several gunshots. The
Yeah.
guys shot their platoon leader or drill sergeant or somebody.
yeah. Then the kids reappear out of the building where they came from, and they approach Susanna and Paul and say that we've finished our testing for today, and they head back to Midwich. It's completely in the dark again. I mean, for the last 2 years, they were on a good level of things, but then this happened. Anyway, so David, the kid I mentioned, he's actually eventually wanders back to to his mother's, and she finds out his memory's been wiped. Totally. Like, he can't remember his mum, his dad, nor the last 7 or 6 years.
His whole life.
His whole life has been wiped away, meaning he can't remember a thing. Not even. So, anyway, he's taken to the hospital, and we learned that they probably might. They plan on keeping him there until they plan to take the rest of the kids away from Midwich. And this is the wish that the kids want.
The kids want to go and grow and develop and get out of the place.
Yeah, and the head guy in charge is so fine with them to be taken away and all that stuff to the labs in somewhere else. And of course, some of the parents object to this. Casey objects to Evie going away, but of course she says that we're they just don't really say anything. They just pretty much they're fine with it, all except Nathan, as it turns out. I don't know
he
why.
wants to stay with his mummy.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens. I've been watching the series and I'm trying to figure out pinpoint when Nathan decides to change hands.
Maybe he was treated so nicely and lovingly, didn't feel threatened, and that's what he wanted.
Maybe. I mean, Hannah Hannah was and Joe were the only ones who were not really being treated as part of the family, as far as I'm concerned. I should mention there were Zoe and Sam's new child is named Ella, and of course she resembles both her parents in the series. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah, probably.
Because she both resembles both. You could see it in her face and her skin and the appearance of her. You could see that she has a mixture of both mum and dad. So she kind of resembles both, and you could see that she does interact like a normal child.
There you go.
Anyway, the kids think we're definitely going to do this, and they plan on making plans. And we learn later on, Evie remarks to Susan that none of you parents will miss us,
which means they're going to wipe their brains.
Meaning later on. So anyway, let me see. They then learn about the dead soldier, and they learn more about the incident in Russia where it deals with the kids back then. And they then approach the other agent that's in the government and asks her a bit more about it. And I think she's also in the dark most of the time too, because she thinks that this is all a government official thingy. But then we learn the guy who's in charge of this, he turns out to be one of the escapee aliens from Russia
20 or 30 years ago.
24 years ago. Yeah. And he's come to England to get these kids to become, hoping that they'll become his way of taking revenge on the world domination, if you will. Pretty much is what I'm saying. He wants to take, I think he's been behind the scenes telling them, that what's going to happen to his, the kids back when he was a kid, this is going to happen to you, and you guys must form together and start planning world domination. I like to think he still has his mind-controlling powers and probably still communicating with the kids behind the scenes.
He's controlling the kids and nurturing their hatred and distrust of the human race. And
I think Nathan sees through this and starts realizing he uses something, I guess a small knife in his hand. He squeezes it every so often just so he doesn't...
It makes a bit of pain. Because if he's in pain, they can't read his brain because it somehow overrides their brain scanning, they can't scan his brain.
I told this to Mike today. It's like a group email. Like you're sent the group email with everyone's email address on it, and you send it off, and then one of the emails comes back and says, "It's sorry, but this email can't be directed to this person because it's no longer in use." So it's sort of like a little like that.
But they didn't know he wasn't being.
But he doesn't know that he's been, sent any messages or they're hearing his thoughts. So technically, it's like that. At least that's what I think.
His brain's on holidays. There you go.
Yes.
Move on.
So anyway, Cassie overdoses because she feels depressed about going to be losing her child and feeling more and more in the dark about the whole incident. So she ends up overdosing and ends up in the hospital. Of course, Evie visits and gives her a cuddle, and she plans on her departure and stuff like that. But Cassie says, "Take me with you." And of course, this is not... she still likes Evie, and Susanna thinks that some of the children still love the adults, some of them. Not all of them.
The ones who had a good family,
I would say.
A good supporting family. Yeah.
But they get so they so believe the guy who's in charge's thoughts that they're a doomed race, therefore they must get away from their families so they can start again and use their powers and manipulate the soldiers in the next,
They're
army
going to
base.
take over the soldiers at the army base to help them
with all their power of
do whatever.
of controlling minds and stuff, they can probably end up dominating the entire world or
progressively.
One army base at a time, or more than one base
get more
at a time.
kiddies born and stuff, and different things. Just gradually make it bigger and better and stuff.
Yes.
And,
Dooming the race of humans, if you will. So
well, there you go then.
yeah. Anyway, eventually Susanna approaches the aliens, the kids, and she asks the leader about the whole incident, and he says that he loves the kids more than her, but she pretty much tells him that I love them more because I've always put their best interests before my own, all that stuff like that. And she does seem to show sincerely that she loves Evie and the other children, even if they don't feel the exact same love, even if that's the case. Anyway, soon enough, they're put inside the basement, and Nathan warns his father, Paul, I guess his uncle, if you will, because,
Somewhat.
yeah, and even though he calls him his dad or father in this.
But he acts like one.
Yes. And Paul also warns Sam and Zoe to get into the to the basement, and so this is sort of like to avoid the mind melding process.
Yeah, they're gonna wipe everyone's mind and everything and do things. So that if you are underground or somewhere away from everything, you wouldn't get affected by it.
Yeah. Paul's love interest, and who actually who is his sister-in-law, but then they sort of become a bit of a lovey-dovey relationship. He tries to contact her like on a mobile phone, but she's been watched by army soldiers. The army soldiers, after the incident with the boy, David, his dad gets killed, and the army soldiers start pouring in, making the whole place into a war zone. Well, not really a war zone. Into a pretty much secure army quarantine area almost. And anyway, so she doesn't get near her phone, and at the time she passes out, and the rest of the town starts passing out, of course. And then when they will come to, before they come to, the army starts taking photos, probably toys, anything that's connected to the children and to the parents, so that once those things are out of the way, they won't have any memories of said children or any reminders of them. So, anyway, when Sam and Zoe get out of their basement, they see the photos all are gone and all of Hannah's possessions are gone too, and they work it out that they're pretty much, that's what the whole purpose, so that they make out the kids were never at Midwich. So,
well, they didn't exist.
Yes. Some of the kids go past the remaining parents that were still alive. This place. Of course, Nathan's mum doesn't remember him, and she shows it you could see it in her face. Paul, of course, still remembers Nathan. He could see. Nathan notices his dad there and nods, and of course Hannah goes by her parents' place, and of course both Zoe and Sam try to play dumb or play the part by saying we don't know you, therefore. But then their little daughter Ellie arrives and says hi Hannah and waves, and then they quickly drag her back inside. They realize that Hannah might easily come back and start giving them, try to mind mold them again, or hurt them anyway. Anyway, Zoe and Sam, they quickly try to pack up their belongings and try to make a point of leaving Midwich again. And this time Hannah arrives and she tries to hurt her mother and father, but she has a change of heart and tells them to keep quiet, or shh, quiet. Anyway, she eventually leaves them alone. I think that means that she will keep the secret that she didn't do anything to them.
Yep.
So she heads off, and we then watch as Paul proceeds to disguises himself as one of the soldiers and places a bomb underneath a school bus, which is where the kids are going to be placed in so they can start moving them to the next town over.
Wherever they're going to.
Wherever they're going to. So the kids get loaded onto the bus. Susanna tells her daughter Cassie and Nathan to flee. Of course, the kids at first try to stop them, sending out the soldiers and stuff like that. But eventually, Nathan gets his foot caught in a bear trap, causing him to get massive pain. And I guess as he's getting in pain, Susanna tries to convince Evie and the others they don't need Nathan. Of course, they sever the ties with him and they agree to let him go. Of course, they get loaded onto the bus
they can't find him either because of the pain.
Yeah, the pain.
They couldn't scan him. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, they all venture back onto the bus, and Suzanne joins them. And as they're driving, we then learn from one of the soldiers that they found the dead body of the soldier that Paul takes his place. And as they're driving along, the guy reports it in to his boss, the alien superior, and then they stop the cars in the bus, and they're about to approach the bus, and this is Paul's last chance. And without any hesitation on his part, he presses the button, and it blows up the bus.
The 4 little kitties.
We then watch
alien kitties, anyway.
Sam and Zoe are watching afar and feel like they're finally free from the whole nightmare. Meanwhile, Paul is slowly watching the bus burn and feeling like, hopefully he'll get to see Nathan someday, I hope. And Nathan and Casey, Casey, they head off into the woods with an unknown future ahead of them.
Yeah.
The end, we fade to black.
Let's go. Okay.
Yeah.
Not much to say about this one.
There is a lot of similar things, except for the barn, which blows up in both movies in the past. They changed that to a bus instead, which I don't mind too much. And it's the policeman who sets up the bomb, not the psychiatrist lady or whatever.
Whatever.
Well, she didn't have time anyway, and why would she know about dynamite?
Exactly.
Go on.
Could have gone to shops and bought one. Anyway, okay. How do we... right. Reception. Critiques are all over the shop.
Cassie, sorry.
No, Rotten Tomatoes gave an approval rating of 71%.
Okay.
Which isn't too bad.
I suppose.
Carol Midgley from The Times gave it 4 stars.
That's good.
And praised it for its atmospheric direction.
Sweet.
Et cetera. Now, here we go. Here's one here. Mark Kermode on Kermode and Mayo's take. Praised the series' tone, use of horror and performances, saying it was a successful update of the novel. Having said that, The Guardian gave the first episode 2 out of 5 stars, feeling it did not make the most of its additional changes and topically with its emphasis on the perspective of the female characters, whatever. I'm totally confused now.
I wish I knew.
Well, the mothers maybe, I don't know. Nick Hilton of The Independent also gave it 2 out of 5 stars, deeming it humorless, it's not freaking funny, and criticising the production.
Well, it's not supposed to be a comedy.
It's not a comedy. Humorless.
It's supposed to be a thriller
type. It's supposed to be a thriller drama type thing. Okay, let's cut to the chase.
Right.
Okay, I thought the original movie, The Village of the Damned, the 1961 of George Sanders, was probably the best take on the story.
Okay.
It was set in England, and it felt Englishy. Now, The Village of the Damned reissue or remake, whatever, in 1995 of Christopher Reeve, that had more of American flair to it. I'm not saying it didn't work. Christopher Reeve's a good actor. The production wasn't too bad. Okay, followed the same storyline, but I think that the early English one was better. Now, this one here, the Midwich Cockoos, was dragged over seven episodes of about 40 minutes long.
7 episodes.
7 about 40, 45 minutes long or something, and I found it a little bit too drawn out for my liking. I'm not saying it's wrong. They were just trying to develop more storylines and whatever. Okay. Now, having said that, I prefer the 2 movies against the TV series, but I'll still give it about 8.5 for its efforts, the production, the direction, the storyline. Everything worked, but just not quite my cup of tea. How's that? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Mike. I mean, it did. For me, it was pretty impressive, and I like the fact that you had a modern day flair, which even
modern day too. I forgot to say that. Yeah.
And I liked in this one. It gave me a lot of it gave me a lot of answers, not less questions. Obviously, like when the government officials tell them to sign a security act, they're not told anyone.
Did you mention about that guy who's in charge?
I did mention him.
Yeah, about him. He might have been one of the surviving person from the original pod.
I was telling Mike when we were discussing it. No doubt they used a bomb, and I just wondered to myself, how can you survive something like that? Most people would not survive.
But he might not have been in the room. He might have escaped somehow or other.
Maybe. Or maybe he did get wind of it and he coaxed his family to let him flee to England and stuff, or just flee to the next.
He ended up in
next
England.
Town or something.
Yeah, whatever.
And anyway, I do think that I can't judge one country from another, and I think they were just. The aliens at the time probably picked the wrong place to raise the alien children, and that's why he probably thinks one race of humans is no different. It will be the same.
Russia first, then he tried England. Next time we go America, then we go New Zealand, then we go China. Yeah. Until it gets it right.
Yeah. Well, he probably thought that one country is different. Is going to be always the same in another.
Anyway, what do you grade that?
Anyway, I grade the series. Let me see. I think I'm going to rate it about 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's a good watch, but a little bit slow moving.
Yeah.
They're trying to develop it too. To me, a little bit too much. Yeah. Too many side stories and
I don't know what the Guardian guy said. I think it was who was saying about the mothers. I do understand a little bit. The mothers did act a bit weird, like they turned a blind eye or blind ear to what's been happening.
It should be about the kids. They spend too much time about the mothers, possibly. That's what he's probably saying, on the perspective of the female characters. So to me, that had to be all the mothers and their issues and their family hassles and crap. And I think they could have shortened it to maybe a 3 or 4 episode miniseries and got a bit more better dynamics out of it.
I agree.
Don't know.
Yeah, we could have done much more by just cutting to the chase.
Well, cutting out superfluous scenes that you don't really need. But I suppose they wanted to... So I haven't read the book. So I might have been trying to copy the book.
Yeah, piece by piece.
And it might have been... And, the book could have been rather a long affair. Lots of different things happening in it. So, maybe they put too much into it.
Yeah.
Don't know. Anyway, irrespective.
Yeah. Anyway, I did like the fact that Nathan was sort of like David, who was getting tired of the whole thing. Even though I would like to explore the fact, when did he start realizing he wanted out on the whole thing? Did it happen when he was at the army base? Did he start realizing it's getting serious and dangerous and more?
He was more human than the other ones.
I think Evie was a bit human too. I mean, she was just following directions like soldiers, where they just follow. They just get laid to lead blindly, even though the girl, the kids, no doubt they're serious and they think they're the superior beings and stuff like that, and don't think they cannot be led astray, but I think they were being led astray with their superior. They said the scientist guys said that they were a hive, a brain.
A hive, like a beehive.
Yeah.
They call them hives. Their little breeding area, like a beehive.
Yeah. See, their brain works as one.
A communal brain.
Yeah.
They can think independently, but they were all linked.
Yes.
Like
exactly.
bees.
Yeah, but I think that the head guy, the old alien guy, I think he was using whatever his brain powers to manipulating them to think that the whole human race are a bunch of nasty people.
Well, I've met quite a nasty, horrible ones too.
Some of them are nasty. Others, you can't judge a book by their cover. I mean, not every family is the same, as far as I'm concerned. Look at Nathan's. He had a loving mother and a good father figure. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah, he's lucky.
Yes, and I could say the same thing about Eve, who had a loving mother who was trying to...
And a granny.
And a loving granny, and was willing to give this a chance with them and all that stuff. But unfortunately, she was led blindly, like the rest of the children, into the evil guy's plans, even not realizing it was evil. And the fact that the original plan, I think, or at least they said this in this. They said that they only came to the surface so they can probably live amongst us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not realizing that maybe that was only part of their plan, or was their plan, but decided that they must eliminate us, or using their ability to look like us and try to control higher ups in military to do their evil bidding and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is why they kept the doctors and the army guys in the dark by sort of possessing their minds and trying to control them. And so, anyway, I do think that this story kind of explains it better, and I think the kids' appearance, they resemble, as I said before, they resemble their mothers.
Yeah, the DNA of their parent.
And unlike the other movies where they tried to look alike in appearance.
All blonde-haired, blue-eyed little kitties, or whatever they were,
in this one, they took on the appearance of ordinary people, and you would not...
They blend in better.
And they blended in really well. They kind of... when they're not around... When they're around other children, I guess, they do play like ordinary children. I mean, of course... Sort of. If you're not too looking
Strange little children that they were.
I mean, when they were playing... When they were 13 or when they were teenagers, they still played like they were 7-year-olds.
Yeah,
instead of
because
actual teenagers.
They were getting older in physical appearance, but they still are only about, say, 6 years old in that. They were about 12 or 13 in physical maturity.
Anyway, I like to think that it's thanks to their youngish minds. That's how they got manipulated, because they're undeveloped minds, as you called it.
Yeah, and
despite
the older guy was controlling them by feeding them information he likes to give them.
Yeah, so selective information, if you will. Yeah. A lot of people often tell it like it is.
Programming them, if you will. That's a good word, isn't it? Programming.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway,
what was your ratings?
8.5. I think. 8.5.
Too. So
no, it's fine. Now. That's about it. I'm going to say where to go from. Now, when it was originally released last year, it went through Sky Max. So I gather it's gone through the streaming services. So if you look around, you possibly find it. Now, for those of you who can't find it, Amazon has no listing. However, eBay's got plenty for sale. If you want to give it a go, it's not that expensive for a series. If you want, buy it, have a look. Have you checked YouTube?
No, I couldn't find it on YouTube.
Okay, so you got to check your streaming services first. You might be able to find it. If you can't, look, it's not a bad series. If you don't mind it being a bit on the slow-moving side, okay?
Yeah.
It's not bad. I liked it. It ticks all the right boxes. Again, a little bit slow for me because they're doing too many cross stories of the different people and the families involved, the kiddies and stuff. And I'd rather get straight to the chase, But some people like it a bit slower, a bit more developed. So
Yeah, but it does seem interesting, especially how it starts off. It may start off slow, like it starts like normal life in a small town, and then
Life in a northern town.
and then the whole thing starts changing, like where the parents become the prisoners and the children become wardens, like prison wardens. I said this to Mike the other day when we finished watching the last episode, of course. I even heard on the news that there might be thoughts of making a season 2, but I don't know what direction they'll go in the series.
I'm not being rude or anything, but I mean, they got a nice ending. They killed all the kids. Okay, Nathan got away.
Yeah.
So
and the evil alien's still around.
Yeah, but what's going to happen now? 10 years later, Nathan's grown up and he goes on an evil vendetta to try kill the leader. I don't know. They're going to stretch the story too far.
I like to think that Nathan goes on the run, like or something like that. Considering he's still the last of his. Well, yes, sort of last in his kind.
Last of that group,
Last in his kind of group.
Yeah, of that group. Yeah. There could be some other ones in the world.
I do wonder, though, whether or not that he will find anyone else that has different sets of opinions about the human race. Instead of dominating it, maybe take it as a way of understanding the human race, instead of turning it into their own set of trying to kill off humanity, stuff like that. I did like the fact that he had a good bond with Paul, his sort of father figure. I thought it was kind of nice, and I liked
very nice.
It was kind of sad that he couldn't probably never reconnect with his real mother again, because I guess after the incident with the kids being killed, I guess that mind molding thing will still. She'll still be in the dark about whether she had a child or not.
Who the hell are you?
Although you cannot get rid of stretch marks.
You can get rid of doctor's records.
You can get rid of doctor's records. And the fact
Which
that she probably didn't. And the photos and pictures she kept on the fridge have been removed, and she'll never see any sketch of. She'll never know if she had a child or not.
Who are you?
At this point. Anyway, I did think it was kind of sad that she'll never know about Nathan. It's kind of sad.
That's good.
Although I do keep wondering what becomes of David.
You keep talking about David. Okay, the guy's had a fried brain. Whatever, we got to reprogram him.
I know, but I do wonder.
Got to reteach him.
Yeah. Anyway, I did think it's kind of sad, and I do wonder whether or not the David kid in this, they use the same name from the other two movies that both boys were named David.
Yeah, well, David in that, but he was a leading antagonist of the kid, wasn't he?
And in the other one, he became the protagonist.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I guess where can you did we discuss whether or not where we could find this?
I did. Amazon doesn't have any. eBay has plenty for sale.
Yeah, so.
And I said, like I said before, it's a streamer, so you'll probably find it on a streaming site hither and thither, considering it was only last year.
Yes, so you guys can check it out there and on eBay, and let us know in the comments what you guys think of it, and let us know if it reaches the quota that you think as the movies in the past did. Would you say, Mike?
Whatever.
I'm just telling the audience whether would it be to your fandom interest whether or not it reaches.
You think it's good or a lot of crap? Okay, that's what he's trying to say.
That's what I'm saying. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about this series, okay, guys, and whether or not it reached its grasp in being a good story.
Float your boat as that,
and whether or not it copied or kind of replicated the story in the book to a sort of a T. Even though they did say the bloke got blown up in a bus instead of a house.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Oh, they put him on the Titanic and go sailing, if you like.
All right, that's about it for us, guys. Okay. So thanks for listening to our latest podcast, everyone. This is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying see you guys around on Boys and Ghouls Film Reviews. See you around. Bye for now.